G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR and welcome to the round 8 stock market video. Hope you're all having a ripper of a round so far. I'll tell you what, we've got a big episode in store for us today. Why is that? Well, there are so many options that we can look to bring in this week. Whether or not you're going down or you're looking to trade up, there are so many blokes that we can choose from. And I think this is a point of the year where we'll start to see some real variations in sides, because some of us may be looking for a midfielder, others down back, others may be looking to bring a forward in. We're all in different positions at the moment, which makes it a really exciting time of the year. We know that the buys are obviously coming up, and that's something that we really need to focus on when we are trading in or trading out players. What buy do they have? How many premiums are going to be missing through rounds 12 to 14? Can I bring in a rookie that might be able to cover a couple, then get rid of him in the last buy? There's so many things that we need to talk about, and we will touch on some of that during the video as well. But you can see a couple of blokes up the top here, and I was even thinking of adding a third one to the middle. He's missing Cooper Hamilton, but we will talk about him, 102k rookie from the Giants with DPP status. But the two blokes we do have here is Rioli Jr. He's had a great couple of weeks, nice break even, very much in the negatives. We'll talk about him. The next man, Jack Carroll, been a heap of discussion, and you know what? It's been almost impossible to split these three. Rioli, Hamilton, and this man Carroll. It's almost been an impossible task, but I've done my best to do that during the video. I'll give you my thoughts on all three, and it's been a tough job, but I've also done my best to rate them from 1 to 3 as well. We've even got a rookie like Strandika from West Coast in the Ruck. If you're looking for a Ruck option, he's 102k as well. So many options that we've got in front of us this week. Do we even go someone like a Greg Clark? Go early on him. As I said, so many players to discuss. You look at the premium options. You got Paddy Cripps there, right in the middle. Absolutely great value. If you don't have him, make sure that you absolutely jump on him. We've got a pod in the defensive line who I think could be great value this week. Very high risk, very high reward, but I'm seriously considering bringing him into the side. We've got a Brayshaw versus Petrarca type situation. Took is going to be really cheap as well. A lot of premium options that we can look at. This man, Jared Berry, yeah, unfortunately, his break even is now at 100 plus. So an ideal time, I think, to move him on. And this is so unfortunate for owners, but such a blessing for non-owners. Jack Steele is right down the bottom this week. Now, I'm not saying as an owner to trade Jack Steele. Do not do that under any circumstances. But as a non-owner, I tell you what, you are absolutely licking your lips, and he should be a prime trading target in round 13 after he's had his buy. But look guys, I'm going to leave it there for now. There are plenty of options to discuss. We're going to get right into it. You know where we start. We start with the 500k plus defenders. At the top of the list this week, we have Nick Vlostone. So he also sat at the top of the list in round 7, but as we know, didn't play last week. Actually has the highest average of any defender in 2022, but keep in mind the fact that he has only played the 3 games so far. With a projected score of around 116, he's looking to rise about 40k this week. That's why I've got the pod symbol on there. That's why I've got the fire symbol on there, because he is a pod on fire. I think Jaden Short's move into the midfield probably means positive things for this man. He takes some of the kickouts, can intercept mark, really courageous type player. What's the major question marks here? Well, it's his lack of premium scoring history, and obviously his durability. Seems to miss a lot of football. But if you've got the faith in his body, you're looking to go that ultimate pod with some really high upside, and someone that does obviously present a little bit of value. His break even's 29, his 3-round average is 121. So if you want to go there, I suppose that you can. But again, I've said it for the last couple of weeks, just not a player that I'd usually go for. Isaac Cumming, I tell you what, a really solid player. 10 out of 15 kick-ins on the weekend, 29 touches, but 25 of those were kicks. Scored 128 points, and this is coming off a 135 against the Crows. So he's an ultra pod option, only owned by 1% of coaches. He's got a terrible buy, but a great role and a nice ceiling, and I would definitely consider. Onto the magician Dane Zorko. Now, I can't believe I'm saying this, and call me crazy, but after saying how much I dislike the pick all year, I'm actually considering him. And this is why. I'm looking to fill my last defensive spot with a high risk, high reward pod type player. And Zorko fits the bill. His downside is obvious. He's got previous calf issues, ongoing Achilles issues, and his scoring has been inconsistent. His average could be higher though. One game he was subbed out, another he basically sat out the entire last quarter. In the first month, he had a bit of a hobble late in games, but I haven't noticed that as much in the last couple of weeks. And what has also happened in the last couple of weeks, well, he has had a role change. This, I think, is mainly due to Kitty Coleman coming back into the side. Now, Kitty didn't go through the VFL. As soon as he was deemed fit to play, he came straight into the side. And it got me wondering, was Zorko almost just warming up this spot for Kitty? Just there for now. And then when Kitty comes back, he's going to transition again into that midfield forward type role. Well, that seems to be the case at the moment. Now, will this continue? I'm not too sure because, Zorko has been pretty effective down back during matches. I do think that he can play the role well down there. But at the same time, I think that he's a lot more damaging playing that midfield forward type role. So I'm a fan of the Zorko selection because of his high upside. He did attend 11 of 24 last week, and I'm pretty sure he did attend 11 the week before as well. So certainly getting some time through there, and we know how damaging he can be. Those kicks, those low flat type 50-meter kicks, absolutely fantastic. This is a bloke that we want kicking into our 50-meter line. He can add some really great defensive pressure as well. And aside from that, he's also a known goal kicker. Did kick 2 against Sydney in round 7. So we know what this man's feeling like. We know what he did last year. I did own Zorko last year, and he gave me some super scores. He's given us some really nice ones this year. He's gone a 116. 105 isn't fantastic, but again, we're going over 3 figures. And then from rounds 5 to rounds 8, scores of 133, 73, bit of a down game against Gold Coast, then 120 and 123. So there's a lot to like about this selection at the current price, but there's a lot to also be worried about when you're selecting someone like a Dane Zorko. It's a major flip from me. I completely understand that, but I don't think that you can be stubborn in your ways, and you need to sort of move with the times. And with Zorko being gifted this defensive midfield DPP at 522,000 with a break even of 62, with a role reversal that I think is a bit of a positive change for him, I just think that in my personal situation, he's a little bit too good to pass up. So I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to take the risk this week and most likely bring in Dane Zorko. I just hope that that Achilles doesn't flare up. There's certainly a risk that he may need a rest during the season. I completely understand that, but the way that I'm looking at this at the moment is that the buys are coming up. I'm hoping he can just at least last until then, and that way he can have his rest then, get a bit fresher, and then end the season really strongly. I don't think that Fagan's the type of bloke that will just rest him for the sake of it necessarily. If he needs a rest, don't get me wrong, they will certainly rest him, but I'm pretty confident that his body is actually looking a little bit better. In his own words, he said that the Achilles issue he will have to manage most likely for the rest of his career, but it doesn't seem to be flaring up too much at the moment. So a really interesting selection. He will absolutely divide the community. I understand that. I was completely against him, and now I'm looking at the positives in Dane Zorko. So 522,900 as a pod in 2% of sides, high upside, but very high risk. Jaden Short, you can see the symbol there. He has the role reversal, absolute buy now, playing through the midfield. Look, you should have started with this bloke, I think, or if not, jumped on him a lot earlier than this. But if you haven't got him, he is still value at 560,100, a break even of 66. He should absolutely smash that this week. get him into your side ASAP if you haven't already got him. Now, Jordan Dawson, another really, really interesting option for us this week. Highest score of the year last week. And why was that? Well, he did come up the ground a little bit more, didn't he? So there still was a couple of kick-ins, still spent a little bit of time down back, but as the game went on, did push up to the ground where he had a really big impact on the game and did look really, really dangerous. So he does have a friendly buy for defenders with that round 13 buy, a pretty nice price, 519,900, 3 rounder of 103. That break even is obviously green there. But look, the issue for me is, I suppose, his lack of a ceiling this year. Last week was fantastic, but what happens if he doesn't maintain this role? It was just for the week. They did something a little bit different, then they push him right down back a little bit. That's my major concern. But at the same time, I think that he's got a lot of potential. So he's a pod option that's had a bit of a role reversal. If you want to go with Dawson, I would have no problems with you doing that. James Sisler, and just quickly with Dawson, I don't think... Look, I haven't got him in my top 8 defenders anyway, but with the change of role, that could certainly change. But I'd love to just assess him for two more weeks maybe, just to be really confident on it. Sisley, wonderful season to date, 3-rounder of 120, so right up there with the best in the competition at the moment. You're certainly not getting as much value at 569,900. I brought him in at 500k. Some people that started him, well, everyone that started him got him in at around the 440k mark. So he's just been absolutely super, producing some really, really solid scores. 300s in a row for me with one of his best scores of the year last week. Absolutely fantastic. If you want to bring him in, I think he's safe enough, and I have him pegged as certainly very close to the top 8 defenders anyway. Hewitt hopefully comes back this week. We'll eagerly be awaiting team sheets, but if you don't own him, look, I know it's a bit of a risk selecting a player coming back from an injury, but if you're going to select anyone, I think George Hewitt is fine. Still presents a lot of value there with a break even of 88, but I think most people should have him now. And for lots of people, you trade him out. Do you trade him straight back in? I'm not too sure. That'd be a really interesting strategy, but if I had have known that Hewitt would be out for this period of time, then yeah, who knows what I would have done. I would have considered it anyway. Tommy Stewart, look, I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but basically we've seen the absolute highs of Tommy and then the absolute lows. So I think Duncan stole a few of his chips this week, but there was no 40 possession type game. Yeah, just was sort of nowhere near it. So as a non-owner, this was absolutely fantastic. Just waiting for this. And if you had have jumped on last week, particularly after that really, really big score, then you'd be ultra disappointed because he will come down in price. Guarantee that. He will certainly come down in price. And Richie, 516,700. My advice, just keep him on the watch list for now. Could come really good. Pretty solid year to date, but nothing spectacular. Willow missed last week, but he'll remain in a pod, I think. 593,000 is just a lot to pay up, but look, it's a really lucrative role down there at West Coast. We know how much time the ball spends down there, and we know how many points are scored against his team. So with Willow, I like him as a pick, but I don't like the price. I just don't think we've got the value there at the moment. Now, there's 3 blokes here, Bailey Dale, Crisp, and Pendles, who I've got the safe as houses symbol on. I just think you know what you're going to get from these blokes most weeks. I think that's going to be between probably a 95 to a 105 type average. We see Dale there with a 112 3-rounder, Crispy with a 109, Pendles with a 107. So I think that they're all going to be decent picks. I think that if you look at the value side of things, you're probably paying what they're worth at the moment. Break even to 103 for Dale, 112 for a 3-rounder, 104, 109 for Crisp, and then almost bang on for Pendles there. So it's not like you're getting a heap of value with the picks, but if you're looking for a safe defender, you've got Crisp and Pendles that do have the last buy. Dale has a good buy for defenders in round 13. I think there's certainly some guys that you could look at and seriously look at if you are focusing heavily on the buys, because I think that most of us have a lot of blokes, premiums this is, that will be missing in round 12. Sard there, he'll be missing round 12, just not a realistic trade-in at this stage. Not too many people own him. Houston, well, I've just got the binoculars on him. Bit up and down. I just don't trust him personally, but that's just me. I do have some bias here, remember. Sam Doherty, I think he's just a buy now. Again, he's got a really bad buy, so my play would be to wait if you could until after the buy. Maybe prioritise him as maybe your last trade in. At the moment, break even of 122. There's certainly no rush to bring him into your side, so I think that's the ideal play if you can manage to do it. But also, if you're looking for a defender this week, I think he's fine to bring in as well. I've got him pegged in the top 4 for mine anyway. Jeremy McGovern, just over 500k, break even of 123, 3-rounder of 87. He's a pod, but someone that I'm not really interested in. And Jack Sinclair does actually interest me. So the past couple of weeks, had a couple of 80s. We haven't seen that from him this season, been really consistent with those 100-plus type scores. A week before this against Port, really terrible weather. And this week, he did attend some CBAs. I think it was around 11 or 12 off the top of my head. But we know that he can score well in a number of roles. So I've got faith in the Sinclair pick. And I actually think that maybe in a few weeks, or maybe even after his bye, he could be a really good get. At the moment, 147 for a break even. I would not be bringing him in. If you look at that 3-rounder, it is only 93. But again, nothing terrible. But I am still interested in the pick. Got that defensive mid status, which is always going to be handy for us. But just for now, wait, see how he goes. That's why I've got the binoculars on Mr. Sinclair for this week. Onto the defenders, 250 to 500k. And the two blokes up the top I've been absolutely wrapped with. Sam De Koning and Paddy McCartan. We'll start with De Koning, priced at 283,500, a 3-round average of 75. I did not think that I would see that during the season, but this bloke is just improving week upon week. Love what he's doing, playing as that, defensive sort of interceptor at times down back, still playing an accountable role though at the same time. Just absolutely love what he's bringing to the table. Job security is rock solid. Break even is 6. We just keep on to this bloke, and hopefully a defensive downgrade will come our way when it's time to chop him, probably in a few weeks, I'd imagine. Paddy McCartan, now what a bloke. I had him on field for George Hewitt this week, and this man really delivered for me. Huge first quarter and second quarter in particular. Was on 61 points at halftime, 8 intercept disposals, 3 of those were intercept marks, and just looking like an absolute star. Had a little bit of a quieter second half, but did give us a 90 plus, and I think he's an absolute hold, particularly given the fact that we don't have basically any downgrade options in our defence. We do have maybe 1 or 2 on the horizon. As I said, Rory Thompson is one of these blokes, but again, he's got a pretty low floor, pretty low ceiling, so I'm just not super confident on him. I just think that McCartan's a type of bloke that we keep, and then if you like, you may want to flip during the buys. He's just such a solid, reliable bench option for us, and he can also be relied upon to be a good field option as well. Job security is as good as it gets. The interceptor at the Swans got a really nice role, and I'm pretty much just going to hold him for as long as I can. Swallow, just chucking out a pod option there. I'm not saying that you bring this bloke in, but he has been thrown into the midfield recently, and he has delivered, really stepped up to the plate. So an ultimate pod selection, break even of 34. Shannon Hearn really benefited from Witherden's absence last week, so he did step into that role. We have already talked about the fact that, in previous videos, that it's such a lucrative role. So with Witherden out, he stepped up. With Witherden coming back in, I certainly don't see him pumping out those huge scores again. Gibcus, geez, he's been super impressive the last 3 weeks. That 3-round average is 82. Really nice. Break even of 46. So still a little bit of meat on the bone. I think that you hold for now. But again, if you need to trade him out to either go up or down, I think it's okay at the same time. The Lizard had a good game over the weekend. I just laugh every time. Oh no, I forgot his symbol. I forgot the Lizard symbol. I've got the binoculars there. He's just a pod option that you could bring in if you want a bit of entertainment value, I think. I just love watching this bloke play, sharing the kicking duties with the Seagulls. So, not a realistic option. I don't think that I would look to bring into my side. But as I said, if you want some entertainment, then you can go for him. Noddy, well, he's got a break even in the red, 55, but I think he's much more capable of what he's produced with that 3-round average. As we know, he has the last bye, he's got DPP status, he's given us 200 plus scores before, so there's still some upside to holding Noddy. He's gifted a shot on goal from McKay late in the second, but didn't convert, which is frustrating. But in the third, he kicked one of the best goals that you see this year as a left footer, but for some reason, he loves it when he's right up against the boundary. We've seen 3 similar shots just this year that have all sailed through, just elite stuff. Now, I'm not sure if they give him a rest and give someone like Erasmus, who was a sub, an opportunity, but I'm hoping that he keeps his spot. At the same time, I think he's fine to chop. He's made us a little bit of money, and unfortunately, some of our other rookies simply haven't made enough money yet to make them worth trading out. So this one is really team dependent, but if you can, I'd hold for another week and hold up until the buys, ideally, because he can cover for the first 2, then you just flip him. But you really don't know what's going to happen. If he puts in another poor score this week, he almost becomes a must trade out. But it is really team dependent, I think, with Noddy. Lockie Whitfield, things have slightly improved in the last couple of weeks with scores in the 90s, but it's impossible to predict his role. Played off a wing, then played up forward, went back, took a couple of kick-ins, and even played on the inside and had 3 CBAs, so very hard to find consistency, but his scoring, I suppose, is trending upwards. Very unlikely, I think, to be keeper material, but a low break-even and a very easy hold for now. Dan Rioli, 426,300, same break-even as Whitfield, almost identical 3-round averages, and almost identical prices as well. So I suppose you could put these 2 blokes in pretty much the same category. Nick Dacos, now, again, I've got the chop and the hold symbol there because either way, I think it's fine. Ideally, I would really, really love to hold Dacos. Unfortunately, I find myself in the situation this week where I really do need to move Dacos on in order to make an upgrade in my side, and I really want to keep that going. I don't want to stop that upgrade cycle. So, yeah, I'm in that position where I think that I really have to. Or look, I don't have to. I could simply leave him there and not upgrade this week, but it's not the way that I want to play. So, 381,600, 3-round average of 75. His break-even is in the green. It's completely up to you what you want to do with him, but keep in mind that he does have the last buy. He'll be able to cover for the first 2, and then he could be a really easy flip just before his own one. And Luke McDonald, so, an interesting selection, a 102, 98, and a 91 in the last 3. Look, it's okay, but not good enough in my opinion. On a positive note, taking some kick-ins, around 40% on the weekend, but with Hall returning soon, I'd wait. On the other hand, if you believe you can average 95 to 100 as a D6, he's a cheap option with that added DPP. Mitch Hinge, 278,500, 3-round average of only 61 with a break-even of 71. That is now in the red, so if he hits a projected score of 73, looking to go down almost 4K. Now, I do have the chopping block symbol on him. I'm personally looking to move him on. Look, he had a really, really poor first half. So he was in the negatives. Then I think he scraped to about a 7 at halftime and then had about a 45 to 47 point second half. So certainly pulled his finger out, took some kick-ins, which was nice. Did have a couple of intercepts from memory as well. But yeah, simply not really what we wanted. And it was a little bit frustrating because I'd kept on to him for a little bit longer than I'd hoped for. If I knew that he was going to be out for around 3 weeks, I may have been tempted to move him on a little bit earlier. But the issue is the same thing, isn't it? There's simply no blokes that we can actually downgrade to. So if you want to keep on to him, if you want to hold the faith, I think that's fine. Remember, he did have that low score in his system, that injury-affected one. Which means that he may be able to reset that break even. He's got the potential to go 90 plus. We've already seen it a couple of times this year. So either way, I think it's fine. Personally, I'm getting rid of him this week. Ridley didn't play last week, but I think the week before did go over the 100. So 480,200, yeah, just doesn't do it for me. I'd like to see, or I'd need to definitely see a little bit more. At this stage, don't seem close to being near the top 12 defenders. The Seagull, well, had a red-hot start to the game, a nice tackle holding the ball free, and had 3 kick-ins within the first 5 minutes. So some lovely 3 points. End up taking 60% of the kick-ins for the game, sharing the duties with the Lizard. But again, I need to see more from the Seagull before I'd even contemplate trading him in. But that break-even is in the green compared to his 3-round average. And in years past, if we saw a Seagull break-even of 85, we would all be absolutely jumping on. But 2020 is a different year, and we've already talked about some of his issues in the previous stocky videos. Jake Bowie, I think, is a really, really easy trade-out option this week. That break-even, 116, firmly in the red as compared to the 3-rounder with a 73. We do have some options that you can trade up to. Trading down is a little bit harder, but hopefully you might have someone like a Noddy or a Dacos that you may be able to flip down back, and then either trade Bowie down to a Rioli type, a Carroll type, a Hamilton type, who we'll talk about when we get to the midfielders under 250k, or else you go all the way up to someone like a Petrarca, a Brayshaw, or someone like a Tuke Miller even. So I would definitely be getting rid of Bowie this week, and then from there, it's up to you whether you go up or whether you go down. And Luke Ryan just has not been in good form whatsoever. 467,100 is actually a bargain price for what he can actually produce. He's got a massive ceiling, Luke Ryan, particularly in seasons past. But with that 3-round average, 82, a break-even of 135, there is absolutely no reason to bring this bloke in. He does have the last buy. Look, who knows, if he scores well in the 2 weeks prior to his buy, you could jump on after that. But at this stage, I just wouldn't be looking at him too closely. On to the defenders under 250k. Unfortunately, nothing to see here. You've got Mountford, who's a defensive midfielder, priced at 102,400, but not even on the West Coast list. On the bubble, but I don't think is a realistic option. Look, he could be if you want that defensive mid swing, if you want that loop. West Coast play a lot of the later games in the week, and there is a real lack of defensive downgrade options. There's absolutely no one. You've got someone like a Thompson who's on the horizon that we could look to select, but yeah, at the moment, I suppose that he could be an option if you want to go that way, but I think it's always risky bringing in a potentially non-playing player just before the buys. Jordan Boyd, 3-round average of 44, break-even of 2. You just don't go there at 161k. Wanganeen Miller, after a solid game the week before, didn't score too well over the weekend. Still got a break-even of 21, so money to be made there. But again, the symbol there is a slow burn. And Perez, he's pretty much the same. Break-even of 24, 3-rounder of 48. Nothing spectacular. He'll continue to make a little bit of money, but similar to the previous 2 blokes, just a slow burn. On to the midfielders, 500k plus, and the man at the top this week, Paddy Cripps, in absolute Brownlow contention. Surely he's leading the count at the moment. 580,700, 3-round average of 143, a break-even of 50, that projected score of 102. Surely that's got to be more, but even if he does go that low, he's going to rise another 23k, which means he will hit the 600k mark. Now, I've got him as the best buy from the entire list, and an absolute must-have. So just on the weekend, 35 touches, 19 of those were contested. He had 9 clearances, 7 tackles, a bunch of inside 50s, score assists, couple of goals, 151 points. And if you had the captaincy on him, then congratulations, well done, because he knocked out a really, really nice score. So if for some reason you don't have this man at the moment, make sure that you jump on him this week, because he will not present much value in the next couple. So jump on Paddy Cripps if you don't own him. The next man, Tuke Miller. He has redeemed himself, but I tell you what, this could have been a massive, massive score. In the first quarter, he punched out 60 points, and I actually had him as my vice captain this week and was absolutely rubbing my hands together, but all of a sudden they send Rowbottom to him and he quietens down. So 120 odd at the end of the day isn't too bad. It was 122 for Miller on the weekend. I'll absolutely take that. He's tackling again, he's finding the ball again. Obviously that first quarter, everything he touched turned to gold. Impacted the scoreboard, was going at 100% efficiency as well. Just really, really impactful. So I can understand why Horse really wanted to quieten him down. And he still managed, as I said, to go 120, but yeah, if he didn't receive that really close attention from Rowbottom, then it could have been certainly without doubt a 150 plus. So his break even is 73 now. You're getting a really big discount on what people had to pay for him at the start of the year. We know that he's coming good now. We've seen what he did last season. We know what he's capable of. So I'd say absolutely jump on Took. I don't know what the ownership percentage is like, but it would be, yeah, pretty easy guess to say that Cripps would have many more owners. So I'm guessing that more people would be looking to bring in Took over Cripps simply because they would be Cripps owners already. If you do have Cripps and you don't have Took, absolutely get this man in this week. Huey McCluggage, I love him. 3-round average of 125. Now, I did say that if he was played in the right position, and that was purely through the midfield as that inside type mid, that he could produce Sam Walsh type numbers, and he's actually getting a fair opportunity lately. So that's where they prefer to play him. Also spends a little bit of time forward. Doesn't spend a heap of time on the wing anymore. He does spend a little bit of time there from here to there, but I just think at 575k, when you've got a couple of other blokes on the list here, albeit their break-evens are a little bit higher, I just think they are probably safer picks. But if you want to go an ultra pod, then I suppose you can go Huey, but consistency has historically always been a thing that's held him back a little bit. Lockie Neal, nothing needs to be said about this man. 663,000, a 3-round average of 139. He's been the standout midfielder this year and probably the standout player in the game. So I've got him in my captaincy loop this week, and I think I'll be going safe with vice captain with someone that will be on the next page. So I think we've all got him by now. If you don't, you've just got to bring him in. He's projected to rise 30k just this week. The projected score is 144, which seems big. But if we look at that 3-round average and even season average, that 3-rounder, as we look at it, it's 139. So absolutely no reason why he couldn't get up for that. And we are playing Adelaide. I think he can score well. Jelly, so again, 3-round average 110. Break even's only the 82 now. I've got the new symbol on there. It's the Leon Cameron symbol. Simply, even the fact that, you know, we're paying 550k for someone that is coached by this man. It's a really, really scary proposition. You know, Jelly, I always worry about his durability. Is something going to happen to him? I worry about his role. They're going to start experimenting with him again, push him up forward when we know that he doesn't score very well. I'm just not too sure. So there's so many question marks with the pick that it simply puts me off. So I'm not a Kelly fan. If you want to go for him, I suppose you can, but certainly not for me. Now, Track, I actually have as a buy now. So we'll look at that break even. It's only 89, a 3-round average of 108. Look, that 3-rounder isn't anything spectacular. If you look at all the blokes above him, probably bar Josh Kelly, a lot more impressive there, those numbers. But what we do need to keep in mind is who he's playing in the next couple of weeks. So coming up against West Coast, obviously, this week, and then follows it up with North Melbourne. So it's a bit of a scary proposition if you don't own the cement bag. 559,200 for someone who I think will be in the top 12 midfielders by season's end, I think is a really decent price. So if you are looking to bring in a midfielder this week, I think that he's a buy now and a really, really nice option. Ollie Wines, yeah, again, a 3-round average of 102. He's just been that consistent sort of 95 to 105 type scorer. It's probably not enough for me in my midfield this year. You've got to have the big six. He could be someone, as I said, look, I've got the symbol there. You've got the wallet. If you are absolutely strapped for cash and you want to go for someone who you think's got a little bit of potential to start to average a little bit higher than what he is, maybe based off last year, for example, then you could go for it. But I just don't think that he's going to be too relevant at this stage. Seb Ross, I've just got the pod symbol there. I started with the trap, but he's been pretty consistent, and I do have to give him a little bit of credit, but never a pick I'll be interested in. An absolute pod if you want to go there for some reason. Remember, he's got the first buy, though, so nothing really appeals to me about the pick. Travis Spoke, geez, he's had a good season. I've got the Mr. Burns symbol on him there, and that's not meant to be disrespectful. Look, CBA's been a little bit up and down. You know, Butters has been in there a little bit. Rosie's been in there a little bit. You've obviously got Wines that's going through there. So I just keep on thinking, no, he's going to taper off. But he keeps on bouncing back, this man. Had a little bit of a quiet period, you know, a couple of weeks ago. But 118 through a 3-rounder, really, you know, healthy, solid season average to go with that as well. He's an absolute champion, this man, an absolute professional, still one of the fittest blokes at the club. So, look, even though he is getting older, we've been saying it for a couple of years now. I must admit, I got a little bit burnt by him last year when I brought him in. So that may play a little bit of a factor in my bias. But look, if you want to go for him, I'm not going to keep on talking people out of it. Now, Darcy Parish is someone that really does interest me. I've got the buy now symbol on him there, as well as the pod symbol, because he's only currently owned by 8% of the competition. So had a little bit of a quiet start to the year in rounds 1 and 3, 99 and 97, but they're the only two times this year where he's actually gone under the ton. So in round 2, delivered a 110, in round 4, 121, then 113, 133, 111, and then his best score of the year last week with a 139 against Hawthorn. So it really seems like he's warming up into the season. We know that he's got a huge ceiling, and as we said, lower scores of 97 and 99, it means he's also got a high floor. He's by far and away their most preferred option when it comes to CBAs. Attended most of them over the weekend. Look, can butcher the ball at times, understand that, but over the weekend, had 32 touches, did lay 6 tackles as well. Just a really, really solid game. So the week before that, again, went over the 30 touches for his 111, and in round 6 against Collingwood, I tell you what, just went a lazy 44. So in red hot form at the moment is this man, Darcy Parish. As I said, only 8% of the competition own him, and I do have him pegged in my top 8 midfielders from here until the end of the season. So I actually recommend taking a serious look at this bloke. Does have Sydney, Richmond, Port Adelaide, Carlton, St Kilda, West Coast coming next 6 weeks. So a couple of good teams there, as well as a couple of teams where I think he should score pretty well against. So I'm a big fan of the Parish selection. But as I said, I'd advise going your Cripps, Miller, Neal and Track before Parish, simply because of the value that they present. And Mr. Baz, well, the symbol I've got there is to watch out for some DPP. There is a good chance, if things continue, that he will be eligible for forward status and at round 12. So 518,500. The 3-rounder isn't looking great there, 91 of the break even at 109. So look, at this stage we simply don't invest. I don't think many people can, because there's a lot of people that have held on to English or will get English in the next week or two. Lots of us have Heaney. I think we've all got Dunkley. Parker was a really popular trading option for us last week. So I don't think that he's going to be an ultra viable option until after they have their buy. So if he's given DPP status, I think he's just above 35% at the moment. I think that I'll look to possibly target him after his buy as my last forward upgrade. Tommy Green, the young bull, had a magnificent season to date, 546,900. He made a lot of coin, particularly if you started with him, a real pod type selection, particularly at the start of the year. But lots of people have invested during the season, particularly early on the season. But now that break even is in red at 116, 3-rounder of 104. He has slowed up a bit in probably the last 5 weeks. So had a couple of massive scores in the first 3 rounds. There was a 164 against Sydney, then a 147 against Gold Coast. But from rounds 4 to 8, a 92, 115, 108, 107, and then a 96 last week. So we haven't seen anything too fantastic from Green over the last month, but as an owner, I don't think that you should panic. I still think that, well, we've seen his ceiling already, haven't we, this year with 2 145 plus scores. I think he's got another one in him coming up against Carlton this week, then West Coast should score pretty well there, then the Lions, and then North Melbourne. So in the next month, probably 2 harder matchups. Carlton's midfield has been going really well this season. Brisbane's also got a pretty strong midfield, but West Coast to North, who knows what this bad man can do. We know that he's a contested bull. That's how he likes to get his football. Has been impacting the scoreboard basically all year as well. So that's been the issue though. The last month, 0, 0, 0, 0. So actually when I do say all year, I should probably take that back. The first half he has of the season. Rounds 1 to 4, 6 goals. And rounds 5 to 7, he hasn't hit the scoreboard. So that's a little bit of an issue. He has had a couple of opportunities, kicks and behinds in there. So if he had have kicked straight, then I suppose that ceiling could again rise. But Yeah, I don't mind Green as a selection if you do own him, but I certainly would not be investing in him now. I've certainly got him outside my top 12 as we speak. Andy Brayshaw, certainly someone that I'm looking at closely this week. And I don't know if this is a sign from the SuperCoach gods or all of the planets have aligned, but just by making 2 trades this week without using a boost and bringing Andy Brayshaw in, my bank balance is 0. I have the exact amount to make this particular move. I was really big on it at the start of the week, but at the moment, I'm leaning possibly against it, but I won't reveal my trade plans during this video. But look, with Brayshaw, I think that he still presents value. Now, we can see with his break even is it's 122, 3-rounder is only 105, but he's more than capable of scoring a 122. 119 for a season average puts him right up there. I think that he sits between probably 8th and 12th for overall averages for midfielders by the end of the season. But that 119 season average is really, really impressive. Scored 134 against North Melbourne last week. He's had 4 scores over 127, including a massive 189, and then 3 scores under 96, his lowest being a 77 in round 7 against the Cats. His main question mark, in my opinion, is his ability to deal with the tag. But apart from that, I think he's got some nice upside. I think we can either wait a week on this pick or else you can buy now. He's playing Gold Coast and then Collingwood, so a couple of nice opponents coming up, and it really is probably a choice between this man and Christian Petrarca. So if I was to make my decision, it's a really, really tough one. I am going with Petrarca because he's a little bit cheaper, and even though Brayshaw has a couple of nice opponents coming up, you can't get much better than West Coast and North Melbourne. So that's what puts Petrarca just over line for me, and probably given the fact that we've seen him go a little bit bigger in the past and got just a couple more runs on the board than Brayshaw. But I think he's an absolutely fine selection to bring in at 570,700. Absolutely go for it as a buy now if you want to. But as I said, if you want to wait, that's also fine. Rory Laird really has been a model of consistency with real top 8 potential. Basically hasn't put a foot wrong, and I'd love to own him. A super pod, only 1% ownership, and apart from 93 in round 3, hasn't gone below a 116, so he shouldn't let you down. The only downside is his price, and there are other options that probably present greater value. Sam Walsh, he's a great post-buy target for me. Lowest score of the year last week with an 89. Attended just over 50% of CBAs and had his lowest disposal count as well of 26. So I'll watch for now, and then I think we just reassess after the buy. Piggy Oliver, 135 on the weekend, found a heap of the pill coming up against the West Coast and North Melbourne in the next 2 weeks. Things are looking very positive. The time to jump on really was a couple of weeks ago, but with that upcoming fixture, don't be surprised to see him actually increase in value. You're paying up, but you're getting a must-have and one of those uber elite. Jack McRae, well, Jackie's back. Punched out a lovely 144 and rewarded those who stuck fat with him in the captain's loop and punished those like myself who did lose the faith. But Bevo didn't stuff around with him too much this week. 19 out of 25 CBAs, so almost 80%. And I wouldn't worry too much about that break even because he has the potential to hit it. So Jack McRae, in my opinion, is an absolute must-have. The Bond, just keep him on your watch list. I think he's currently on the borderline of round 12 forward mid-DPP. I'd select as a forward, but not as a mid only. Benny Keys has the potential to finish in the top 12 and had a really consistent season. Just managed to keep his perfect 3-figure season streak going and scrape to 100 on the dot. From rounds 1 to 8, his scores read 128, 149, 113, 110, 106, 129, 103, and the 100 last week, as I mentioned. So a quieter month, but seems to be a safe pod option. Currently owned by 6% of the competition, and I'd certainly put him on your watch list. Jack Steele, now this is a nightmare as an owner and a gift from the SuperCoach gods for non-owners. I jumped on him 2 weeks ago, expecting him to hold price and even have some slight growth, but I was wrong. and he will be a bargain unless he has a couple of mammoth games. Just a down game of the weekend, a shocking third quarter in particular, where everything he did just seemed to lose in points. But the Man of Steel, I think he'll bounce back. He's a proud man. He'll be fully aware of his own subpar performance. So wait until he bottoms out, or even better, just plan to pick him after the bye, as he does have the first one. Titch, man, just know he's an absolute pass to me. 40 points on the weekend, and exactly why I've warned against trading him in all year. 14 touches for an entire game is mind-blowing. In his SuperCoach Prime, he could do that in a single quarter with ease. So, unfortunately, I think we say rip to Titch the Fantasy Pig. And Callum Mills, well, he's given owners the highs and lows recently. Only the 60 points on the weekend, coming off scores of 214 and 139. In a week or two, this bloke will plummet in price. Unless he pulls out an absolute couple of monsters, he'll likely face consecutive break-evens of 200 plus. So definitely wait, picking up when he's around the 600 to 630k mark. On to the midfielders, 250 to 500k. We've only got 5 names on the list this week. Up the top, we've got Horn Francis, 314,300. His break-even is actually in the green, 59 compared to his 3-rounder, which is 63. And he'll look to rise just over 2k if he can hit that projected score of 64. But I've got him on the chopping block. I think he is fine to go this week. And a lot of people have already traded him out in the last couple of weeks. Now, you can keep on to him. Again, that's fine. It is in the green. And he does have that last buy. So ideally, he's someone that you'd love to take through to the buys. But unfortunately, I just don't think that many of our other options are ready to be traded out yet. They simply haven't made enough coins. So I think he's perfect to trade out this week. But if you do want to hold, again, that's fine. Cordwell, as you can see there, break even 64, 3-rounder of 78. Made a little bit of cash, 386,300. Still looking to rise this week with his projected score. But again, I think that he's certainly someone that could be on the chopping block. There's no way that he's looking to be a keeper. So I think you need to upgrade him or downgrade him this week. The man that I would be holding on this list is Matthew Rouse. So 437,000 at the moment, 3-rounder of 97. That's much healthier than what it was looking like around 3 weeks ago when I decided to trade this man out. Break even still in the green, 68, with a projected score of 86, almost looking to rise 10k. So I think he's a definite hold, and my plan, if I was an owner, would be to simply hold him up until his buy and then flip after that, I think. So Matty Rowell at the moment, I think is a hold. Danger, I've got the chopping block on there. Look, it should have been the watch symbol because I don't think basically anyone owns this man at the moment. If you do, you've probably been in an absolute world of pain. But look, just watch him. Just see what happens with him. He's got a break-even of 98. It is very much in the red there by 17 points because his 3-round average is only 81. But he could be an absolute bargain basement option if he can hit some form. His body must be feeling a little bit better now, so just maybe one to look out for. But I certainly think that his best days are well and truly behind him, and he will not finish anywhere near the top 12 midfielders for averages. And my man Jared Berry is absolutely on the chopping block this week. He's got a 3-round average of 66 and a break-even well and truly in the red with 101. He's looking to go down almost 20k this week. And look, if we bump that projected score up even to that 3-round average, he's still looking to go down around 16 to 17k. So if I was an owner, I would definitely jump off this week. There are a number of options that you can go up to, and there are certainly a number of options that you can go down to. And I think that's going to be a really good segue into our midfielders under 250k. On to the midfielders under 250k, and this is where all the action is at this week. To be honest, I've never seen the SuperCoach community so divided when it comes to rating 3 rookie players. Now, the blokes we have are obviously Rioli, Carroll, and Hamilton. So we've also got Greg Clark as well, who's not actually in the bubble this week, but I've got a new symbol there. We may even look to break our rule of going early on a rookie. So, look, I'll quickly get through the other blokes and I'll get back to these top 4. So, we've got Robbie McComb there, or is it McComb? I've heard different pronunciations, so I'm not too sure if I'm butchering that, but He's at 153,100, so made around 50k last week. 3-round average of 58, but did produce his best score of the year last week, which is really, really handy, particularly for those people that did need him as an emergency just for that week. Negative break even of 47 with a projected score of 58, which is the same, obviously, as his 3-round average. He'll go up another 46k and be up to 200k in no time. So in regards to trading him in, the ship has absolutely sailed because we do have 3 or even 4 other options that you can bring in this week. Benny Hobbs, 183,500. I did have the poo symbol on him last week. I had zero hope for this rookie selection, but all of a sudden he's pulled out a ripper score, gone up, now looking to go up another 22k this week if he can just hit a 51. So I've got the negative to positive symbol there, the red arrow to the green arrow. Really, really nice for current owners. McGuinness, just slow burn, not really relevant. Erasmus did come on as a sub on the weekend. I think he gathered around 9 touches in his short time on ground, so does have the scoring potential, but unfortunately not the job security. We're not paying up almost 190k for someone who is likely going to be the sub from week to week. Josh Ward, again, same story. We're just waiting on this bloke, 248,400. Look, he's certainly on the chopping block. He has been for weeks now. I know some people trade him out really, really early. I know that lots of people have still been holding, such as myself. But yeah, look, I am losing patience. And given the fact that I don't have a whole heap of other rookies that I'm really keen to trade out at this stage, he's probably on the chopping block for me this week. So what does that mean for you? Absolutely keeping, because as soon as I trade him, he will give us that 80 plus score, almost guarantee it. Braden Cook, not really relevant on the chopping block anyway. That break even is in the red compared to his 3-rounder. And Finn Callahan, would you call it a failed rookie selection? No, you wouldn't call it a failed rookie pick, but he's got a break even of 48, still in the green with that 3-rounder of 57. But for the high price that you paid for him, yeah, it hasn't worked out overly well. An absolute slow burn. So yep, got through all those blokes. So we really do have 4 blokes that we need to take a really close look at this week. And I tell you what, I've done as much research as I can, look back at some clips, and they're still really, really hard to split. And look, I'll focus on the first 3 because we've got Greg Clark. Look, I'll quickly go to Greg Clark, actually. Look, he was on the stock market. He featured on the stock market the week before. We were looking to break that rule, even bring him in his first week because we did have him in the preseason. We know what the story is with him. But the new symbol there is we need to break this rule. Well, we don't need to, sorry. We can break this rule because he is such a great rookie option. Now, the reason why I wouldn't necessarily break the rule this week is because we do have 3 solid options and we can wait a week on Clark. Now, one of my good mates who I play basketball with did have COVID. And the week after, when he came back to basketball, he was absolutely buggered. It does affect people in different ways, but he said his respiratory system was stuffed. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is that we don't know exactly how he's going to come back after that COVID situation. So, look, he could come back and score 100, or else he could give us a 60. Out of all the 4 players there, he's certainly the bloke that you do want to bring on field. So if you do really need an on-field rookie, then I think it is okay to go early. But at the same time, personally, I'd rather just play it safe, just wait that extra week just in case, and then jump on the week after. Now, the 3 blokes up the top, they all offer something different. So we've got Rioli up the top. I think he offers you job security. We've then got Carroll underneath him. I think he'll offer you the best scoring potential. And then we've got Hamilton below him. He offers you the best price, obviously at 102,400. So which way do you actually want to go? Let's start with Rioli. He's obviously got mid-forward status, priced at 123,900. Got a 3-round average of 82, a negative break-even of 92, and with a projected score of 53 this week, which is obviously well below that 3-round average, almost 30 points below that. He's looking to go up 64,800. He really has had a solid 2 weeks. Played against the decimated Eagles in round 7, kicking 3 goals, bit of junk time, 14 touches, but over half of those contested. Laid 4 tackles, 92 points, and this was from only 68% time on ground. Last week, didn't manage to impact the scoreboard, but still ticked over to reach a nice score of 72. And apart from the goals, stats were pretty similar. 14 touches, 8 contested possessions again. Look, it was mainly based off that defensive pressure, hungry appetite for the football. His DPP really appeals to me, particularly given the fact that we can swing him during the buys. And it does make trading between different lines a lot easier. I think that he's got the best job security out of the three and surely keeps his spot for the next month at a minimum. I think Dimmer really wants to get some games into him for his development, and without a doubt he deserves his spot. Seems to have passed, players like Arts, and I don't think that there are too many other players that are really breathing down his neck for his spot. So in my opinion anyway, he seems pretty safe. I like his short-term fixture coming up against the Hawks and Essendon in the next two, and he should make close to 100k in the next fortnight, even if he can score just a couple of 55s. The main issue here is his role. We all know it's impossible to score consistently as a small forward. We'd really expect to see some high variation in those scores, and you can almost bookmark the fact that he'll drop a score in the 40s. We've seen the same from players like Durden Rochelle, Roses, so certainly more of a bench option, and I'd be reluctant to actually have him on field. But as a trade-in option this week, I really actually like Rioli. That DPP status, as I said, he's got the lowest break-even. Yeah, I really do like his prospects, and he should make 100k pretty much in the blink of an eye, unless, there's a disaster-type score, a 30 or below in the next couple of weeks. Our second option on the list is Jack Carroll. He's also had an impressive start to his career. A second-year player, finally getting his opportunity, and apparently a bit of a Vossi love child. I've assumed that it would be pretty much a simple Hewitt in, Carroll out, but this may not be the case. Currently playing on a wing with some inside mid minutes, attended 7 out of 30 CBAs on the weekend, which is always a handy bonus. Does have that ability to play on the inside or outside, but if he stays in the team long term, I'm assuming that he'll play that wing role. In round 7, scored 95 points from 19 touches. Then last week scored the 59 from 18 touches, so a bit of a variation in scores there, but a pretty consistent disposal count. Only the one tackle in 2 games, so I'd like to see him lift there. But apparently he's got a great tank, and if not for a preseason setback just before round 1, he could have been knocking down the door for a round 1 debut. Played 2 weeks in the VFL after coming back from injury, and then got his opportunity, so they obviously rate him, and we're keen to give him a crack, but I'm still slightly worried about his job security, as Carlton are building some pretty solid depth. So if he can stay in the side up until the bye, he's projected to make about 150k. Has a potential to either be a quick flip, or you take the round 12 hit and let him cover for the round 13 to 14 buys. And our third option is Cooper Hamilton. So he was selected with pick 13 in the 2021 rookie draft, hence his low starting price, averaging 11 touches, 3 marks and 4 tackles over his first 2 games. Had a really nice start to last week's game, and then faded a little towards the back end. His disposal's pretty clean, going at 83% efficiency in round 7 and 80% efficiency last week. Has a really nice tank, which is reflective of his high time on ground. Played 90% of the game last week, which was great, coming off 80% game time in round 7. Now, job security looking forward is a little unknown, but the high TOG suggests a positive sign. He's been far from their worst performer, and for me anyway, he has passed the eye test. So if you're looking for the cheapest option, and you can really use the money you save on a Rioli or a Carroll this week, it may be enough to sway you towards Hamilton. So they are the 3 major options that we can select. They've all got the same buy, the first buy, which is a little bit frustrating. I wish one of them at least had the last buy. That would be ultra handy, but it is what it is. We've got to make a tough decision. So how do I rate them? I really wish that I could sit on the fence, but I suppose that I've got to make a decision for you. Oh, this is tough. And I could be completely wrong, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong or if I'm right, but I've got Rioli as number 1, mainly due to the fact that I think he's got the best job security, and he's also got that added DPP status. Do I expect huge variation in scores? Absolutely. But at this stage, he's got the best break-even, the friendliest break-even, So I'm picking him as my number one selection, I think. Now, the next two, it's pretty tough. I'm going to put Carroll just ahead of Hamilton, I think. And I did change my mind only today about that. As we mentioned, I think that Vossi is a big fan of Carroll. That wing spot may be up for grabs, and I think he's doing enough to keep that spot at the moment. So given that fact, I've got him just ahead. But again, you could argue that Hamilton, you're saving 20k. That can be ultra handy, 20k at this stage of the season. And Hamilton does have that mid-forward status. So, yeah, it was Hamilton and then Carroll, but I've slightly flipped. It's Carroll by an absolute bees, you know what. On to the rucks, and we do have three bubble boys this week. We've got Strundika, Begg, and Jamison. I'm going to rule out Begg and Jamison, I think, as options, both priced at 123,900, but don't really like their prospects moving forward. If you're going for anyone, I think it is Strundika, 102,400, so really you can't get cheaper than that. He does have the best 3-round average with a 66 and the lowest break even with a negative 72. You've got, Bailey Williams may come back into the side. I don't think Dixon's really in favour at the moment after his shenanigans. So I think if you are looking to downgrade in the rucks this week for any reason, that he would be the bloke that you'd go for. Max Lynch, I just think's a bit of a pass for me. May come good. I'm not too sure. The price just way too awkward, obviously. Sammy Hayes, so pretty happy with Hayes over the weekend. He got a 98, I think, from memory, and really hit back after that 50-odd last week. Just continue to watch him grow, and I think you just flip when he maxes out. Toddy Goldstein, well, didn't he turn back the clock with a 142 last week? And that's also coming off a 125 against the Blues, has DPP status, which is handy. But this is a question, what happens to his scoring when Shearer returns? Look, great as things stand currently, spending more time in the ruck. But when his time goes down, I think his average will as well, which is pretty unfortunate. But with a -1 break even, I suppose you jump on if you really want to. Bruce, not much discussion needed here. Still low break even with 32. He has been an absolutely brilliant trade in. I've currently got him as my R2. If you're in the same position, I recommend that you just hold for now. More money to make, then we just hopefully flip to a Gawn, possibly someone like a Darcy, but he is rising up in price, and we'll talk about him in a minute. Now, Huey Dixon, I am an advocate for trading him out. I did give some advice on Twitter today about that when someone asked me about Dixon, or it might not have even been a direct question about Dixon. It might have been, what do I do with my side type thing. And I said, look, I think that you trade Dixon out for someone like Rioli. But then my man Janeth had a bit of a counter argument, and he said, do you know what? Maybe we don't trade out Dixon, because when Sam Hayes is right for the picking, when he's ready to move on and get upgraded to someone like a Gawn or whatever we want to do with him, might want to upgrade to someone in the forward line in particular maybe, then Dixon might be a really good key to that. So we just flip Dixon into your rucks if you currently do have him in your forward line, for example, and then you can easily trade in a forward. So there's merit both ways, I suppose, but I'd prefer to probably move him on. Given the fact that he's 246k this week, I think that it does make sense to downgrade to someone like a Strundika, because I think their job security, well, is even at best from a Dixon point of view. Look, I think Dixon's a talented player, and I think that that Simpson, the coach, has mentioned that he believes that he does have the talent to be a regular part of the 22. But as things stand, after Dixon's behaviour, as I mentioned earlier, I think that Strundika probably has the upper hand at the moment. So, yeah, it depends what you want to do with Dixon, but I don't see great things coming. If he's named this week, though, then that could be a little bit different. But 47 is a break even. There's no guarantee that he even gets to that. Again, we've seen him get an 80-plus score before as well. Now, Big Sean Darcy, Oz rat for NO, who did chuck the VC on him, so really benefited last week. And look, this is why we had him in our preseason teams. His massive ceiling, a lazy 20 hitouts to advantage, and a mammoth 178. If he can stay on the park, he's a great buy. And he has the potential to be the highest scorer in the comp, but we all know what the downside is. It's his durability risk. Just hasn't really worked out for him so far this season, particularly in the early rounds. But last week, that just shows his potential. So I think Sean Darcy is the ultimate risk versus reward type player. Jared Witt's my man and killing it at the moment. In the last 3 weeks, he's delivered us a 143, a 136, and a 132. That's huge. And he put around 50 points on Gawn last week. Got a great fixture with some very favourable matchups to come, although he does face an informed Darcy this week. Timmy English was looking to come back after that injury this week, but apparently now has a virus, has been ruled out. If you've held on to him, it's really frustrating because the news that we got early in the week was that this man will be back, but again, he has been ruled out. Don't trade him in this week. You've got another week up your sleeve if you are looking to upgrade to him. Luka Jackson, look, with question marks on Gawn's fitness this week, we could see a big score incoming here. Playing in WA, we know he's a WA boy. Might want to put on a show for his hometown. So, look, with a break-even of 121, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually got there, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if he went like an 80 as well. So that break-even is majorly in red. If you look at the 3-round average, it's basically doubled, 1 point away from being doubled. So he's a prime target to actually trade out at the moment. I think that he's on the chopping block. Just frustrating that we see this really high break even when he is coming up against the Eagles this week, and I think that he will get a lot of opportunity with, as I said, the question marks about Gawny. Now, we'll finish with Big Maxi here. Non-owners, I tell you what, we were rejoicing to see him punch out his lowest score of the year a week after he produced his highest score of the year. From the highs to the lows, similar to Stewart, but only attended the 40 ruck contests, which was his lowest for the year so far. And due to that knee complaint, he did spend more time resting forward, and he would have been hampered. Certainly not at his optimal fitness level, but he has been cleared to play this week. And look, although that knee is slightly concerning, even if he's rested forward, he can kick 10 against West Coast. So, look, he should present more value in a few weeks if he can score, say, under 125. But it's really, really hard to predict. It would be frustrating if you did jump on him last week, or if you were looking to jump on him this week, given his great fixture coming up, just with that knee. But look, it could be nothing. As I said, he doesn't need to be anywhere near 100% fit to score well against West Coast. So I think he's fine to trade in if you want to. But I wouldn't be trading out of Wits. I wouldn't be trading out of Bruce. I think I've had a few questions about that this week. Look, in saying that, look, Gawn, he could go at 200. I'm just not quite sure. I just don't think that Bruce or Wits are, it's the time to trade them out. They've both got really, really low break-evens, what they've been punching out. If you've got a Hayes as well, he's certainly not ready. He's got a break-even in the negative. So the only way that I would really trade up to a Gawn is if I had someone like a Jackson there, or a Rob there, I haven't even got him on the list this week. There's talk about him getting dropped. I think Strawn may come into the side. We'll wait for the team sheets to arrive. But it's a tough spot at the moment if you don't own Gawn, because you've most likely got someone that you don't really want to trade out either. So completely up to you, but wouldn't be surprised to see the big fella score a 120. Wouldn't be surprised to see the big fella go a 160 plus. Onto the forwards, 500k plus, and the man up the top, Lukey Parker, was a very popular trade-in target last week. And I tell you what, wasn't he looking good at halftime with 79 points? An okay first quarter with 22 points, but then went bang in the second, kicked a nice goal, almost kicked another one, some contested possessions, was really effective, and received 57 points just in the second quarter. But then just went missing, scored 9 points in the third, rolled his ankle, and didn't score a solitary point in the last. So there's a slight concern there with the ankle, but if he's cleared to play this week, I still think he's an excellent trade-in target, and I've got him pegged in my top 4 forward options. Dylan Moore, tell you what an ultimate pod. Don't know too many blokes. I don't know any blokes, actually, that own Dylan Moore, but what a solid season to date. Actually one of Hawthorn's best players, I think, and a really underrated player in the competition. Mr. Dusty, well, he came back. It was great to see Dusty back playing football again. Played okay, still warming into things. Nothing spectacular, but simply one I think that we put on our watch list. And if we like what we see, look to maybe trade him in after the buys. Isaac Heaney, it was another poor game from the Heen Dogs, and that 3-round average isn't looking too flash, is it? Only 87 with a break-even in the red of 120. Now, this bloke, he was only on 27 points at halftime, 4 touches, but 3 of those were behind. So it could have been a 50 if he had a kick straight, and almost threw him a notepad at the TV. He missed a goal, he was straight in front. I was just pleading him to kick it, but simply an off week. And I think it was the commentator's fault. They just put the curse on him. This bloke, he's kicked so straight all year, just has not missed, and then bang, put the absolute commentator's curse on him. So, yeah, just a really, really frustrating game from Heaney. But look, he managed to scrape, what do we call it, a half respectable score. I'm not even sure really, but I wouldn't be looking to go Heaney in or out this week. Obviously, I do prefer the Parker option, but at the same time, I do think that Heaney will finish in the top 6 forwards for averages, depending on who else gets DPP in the rounds to come. Libba attended 18 out of 25 CBAs on the weekend, one behind McRae, 542,700, 3-round average of 110. Break even is just in the red there with 123. I do actually like Libba as an option. The issue is how many Dogs and Swans can we fit into the side, particularly with that round 13 bye. That's going to be really tough for most people's forwards lines, I think. But look, after the bye, I think we can have a look at him. But the thing with Libba is that he does have a big variation in his scores, and that's all dependent on his role. So I think we will have the opportunity to get him at a much cheaper price. So I'd simply be passing for now, keep him on your watch list, and then possibly reassess after the bye. And Josh Dunkley coming off his lowest score of the season with a 78. I'm not too concerned. Under 50% CBAs isn't great, but that doesn't really stop him from still scoring well. Before last week, had 5 tons in a row with a 129, 103, 100, 142 and a 139. So don't let the one bad week put you off. He is an absolute must-have. On to the forwards, 250 to 500k. And the man up the top, Tommy Lynch, didn't he have a massive game over the weekend? I think he was on around 140 or something ridiculous like that at halftime after kicking 5 goals to that point. Absolutely monstered them. So he sees himself with a negative break-even of 64 and a 3-round average of 132. Looking to rise 80k this week, but that is with a projected score of 115. Now, I do have a couple of symbols there in the notes section. I've got the fire symbol because there's no doubt that he is on fire, but I do also have the roller coaster symbol there because you simply don't know what you're going to get week from week from Tommy Lynch. So don't be surprised to see an absolute monster. The man will just dominate. But then other games, he simply won't be able to get into the match and he can punch out a 50 type score. So not a model of consistency, and that's something that always puts me off. Also, a bit of that NDHP policy for me. I just sort of wouldn't touch him, and I won't say a trap. I think that's, pretty disrespectful to someone that's just come off a massive score like that with a break even. Certainly in the negatives, this is like a rookie type break even, but he just worries me and not a man for me. Now, Darcy Cameron, I am much more of a fan of this move. If you're looking for a pod to bring into your side, now, is he going to be a long-term option? No, but at the same time, I think he can be a really good option for a couple of months, or basically, to put it simply, until Grundy comes back into the side, because he has assumed that number 1 ruck role at the moment, and his average really reflects that. So a couple of hundreds, consecutive hundreds in the last 2 weeks has seen him really, really being put on people's radars, and I can see why, because he's got a negative break-even of 8, and I think that we can, I'm not going to say lock it in because I don't want to put any guarantees to this, but I think 95 plus, is a pretty good prediction from him from now on, and with the potential, I think, to maybe go that 105 plus even. So Darcy Cameron short term at 368,400 may be a really, really interesting option. So do we trade up to him? Do we trade down to him? Well, we'll get to someone like a Stephen Cornelio in a minute, Could it be a move? Now, this is if you've got trades in the bank, maybe if you want to even change around some of your buy structure to bring in someone who you think has a really, really decent role in the short term at least, and trade out someone who you think does not have a role that's favourable to SuperCoach scoring. So it could certainly be an option, and I wouldn't blame someone, as I said, if you've got the trades in the bank, to make this move. I don't know if anyone is looking to make it, but it's certainly on the cards. Not for me, but yeah, if you want to go a little bit different anyway. Charlie Curnow, 418,000. He has actually been a super pick this year, almost made 200k, and with a break even of 1, projected score of 94, he's looking to go up another 40k. So he'll get to 450 quite easily, you'd think. And if that's the case, what a successful pick that many coaches didn't end up jumping on. Shea Bolton, whatever you say, it always butcher that one and mess that one up. 435,600 with a 3-rounder of 93, break even of 14. I think the trouble with this pick is that it was a really popular trade in target last year. Remember when he sort of bottomed out, we saw a couple of hundreds, thought, yes, this is a man that we do need to bring in, and he just did not deliver. So I think that is still haunting people. It does put me off, so I couldn't do it, but who knows? He's a really talented player, don't get me wrong. And, you know, I've played through the midfield. On his good day, he can just be so electric, just almost impossible to stop. But how many good days he's going to have? Consistency is always going to be his issue, I think. Nicky Martin, what a man this is. We simply hold him for now. A break even of 30. He's going to get well over 400k with a 3-rounder of 96. Not scoring like an absolute premium, but just that tier under. Just keep him for now, and then maybe look to flip him, I think, around the buys, whenever that suits you anyway. Paddy Lipinski, so did attend some CBAs over the weekend. Look, his break-even is in the green, 60 compared to his 3-rounder, which is 85. So I do have the chopping block plus the hold symbol on there, because it's just completely up to you. If he can get you up to a real uber premium, you know, you can use some DPP to get someone like your Cripps in to your side, a Tuke Miller. If you don't have someone like that, then I'd certainly recommend to look at that closely. But at the same time, if you're not desperate to do anything too much, then Lipinski is a perfect hold, in my opinion anyway. Rochelle, I think, is on the chopping block, you know, break even 63. We've seen him go 100 a couple of times, so we can certainly smash that. But what we've seen recently is nothing fantastic. In fact, it's very much below par anyway. 40 for a 3-round average. We knew that this could happen. He could go this low, but probably not in consecutive weeks like he has, because originally at the start of the season, the pattern was maybe poor, you know, here and there, but then he'd go up and, you know, continue to spike his value due to those big scores. But with the lack of those big scores, he's just going to continue to leak cash, unfortunately. Now, Taron Thomas, certainly not a realistic option at this stage, but I do have the wallet symbol there, the empty wallet, also with the binoculars. So I think that, you know, we just watch him for a couple of weeks, and if he comes good, he could be the ultimate cheap option. Remember, some people were actually considering him at the start of the season, during the preseason, as a potential keeper in their side, you know, at a good price. It's some potential value, but things just have not worked out for Taron. But who knows? He does have the talent to turn things around. Realistically, will it happen? Oh, I don't think so. I'm not too sure. But just put him on your watch list anyway. It won't hurt you to do that. And Will Brodie, well, I've now got the keeper sign on him. 115 on the weekend to make up for his 75 the week before. Same old story, low time on ground, but huge points per minute, becoming a really important cog in their Freo midfield, and has been an absolute gift from the Suns. On to the curious case of Stephen Coniglio. What do we do with this man? Priced at 452,000, has a 3-round average of 90, not too bad. Again, probably not enough for keep material. Break even is in the green, but he's got a projected score of 61, looking to go down 11k if that's the case. But again, these things are really, really hit and miss. So I think we just take these projected scores with an absolute grain of salt. But I know some people actually traded him out last week. There are some people looking to trade him out this week. And why is that? Well, it's all about role, isn't it? Look, he did attend 4 out of 20 CBAs over the weekend, but he is spending most of his time forward. So luckily, last couple of weeks he has hit the scoreboard. I think that saved him from getting, some pretty mediocre type scores. And look, the issue is, without those 3 goals in round 7 against Adelaide, that 108 is probably a 70 like he got last week against Geelong. So only the 16 touches, did have 5 tackles, which was nice. A couple of free kicks against didn't help. But look, it's pretty obvious, I think. Well, I've made up my mind anyway. This is just my opinion, that Cogs is not going to be a keeper from here on. So my plan is to try to just get one more rookie off field and then look to flog him off. And I'm hoping to actually do that this week. So my plan is to hold Cogs for one more week. Hopefully he'll get around that 86 and he won't lose too much. Look, if he can get higher than that, then fantastic. And hey, I may even reassess if it's a really nice score. We'll see what happens. But at this stage, I'm looking to hold this week and then potentially flip the next week, because I've got players like Nick Martin, who I'd probably rather keep on to at this stage. Zach Butters, who I'll get to in a minute. I've got a little bit more faith in him, which may be silly. Compare those 3 round averages, 66 to 90. But again, I think it comes down to a little bit about role. So Cogs for me, could hold or you could chop. Completely up to you and team dependent. Now, Mitch Duncan, the old man, I've got the watch symbol on him there. Now, I think he had about 16 touches just in the first quarter. Took a few points away, I think, from Tommy Stewart, who had a really down game this week, as we know. Is there upside to the pick? Sure there is. But is there risk to the pick? Absolutely. His durability is terrible. I'm almost expecting him to miss more games of football this year. Again, this is just my opinion, just my predictions and expectations. Not going to say that it's going to come to fruition, but at 442,000, I could see why people are tempted due to his premium scoring history in the past. But with a break-even of 95, a 3-rounder of 83, was this game just one out of the box for Duncan? Is this going to continue into the future? I certainly don't think games like that, but even 100-plus games, we'll have to see. So my advice is to just watch him at the moment, and then if you like what you see, you might even be able to jump on after the bye. Timmy Taranto, just not doing it at the moment, is he? With a 3-round average of 81. Just seems like there's better options at the moment, but just one to put on your watch list. Green, he's a bit of a pod. Is he going to do something stupid? I'm not too sure, but 3 rounds of 78, break even of 101. That's in the red, so looking to go down. Now, Zachy Butters, we've been making excuses for him, haven't we? Oh, man, what do we do? He's got a break even of 105, but he is coming up against North Melbourne. And this is, fairly disrespectful to North Melbourne, isn't it? But we've got to be realistic. If there's any side that we want our players to be coming up against, it's either West Coast or North Melbourne. So Butters this week, I think he can break that break even. I think he can go 125 plus. And do you know what? That's actually what I am expecting of this young man. Now, it may be crazy because it's almost double what his 3-round average is, but I know that he's come out and said that he was disappointed in his own efforts last week. So he's well aware that his form isn't fantastic at the moment, and I think that he'll actually bounce back. So CBA count over the weekend, it wasn't fantastic. He only had 11 out of 25, so not even at 50%. Rosie had the 16 out of 25, but Boak only had 11 out of 25 as well. So shared the same amount of CBAs as Boak. Is that enough for him to score really well? Maybe not, but again, he can be damaging up forward. So look, things just didn't go right for him last week. Again, no excuses. A few of the other poor scores, I think that he did have an excuse. Copped a really bad knock from Sam Powell-Pepper and had gastro during another week, and obviously it's so hard to perform well when you've had gastro. We've seen that. That's been a pattern already this year with players scoring who have suffered from that. So look, I'm keeping the faith at this stage. It looks like he's lost a heap of cash, doesn't it? 421,400. But remember that we didn't spend a lot on him at the start of the year, and he's only gone down around 20k. So certainly not a disaster price-wise, but if you want to trade him out, I think it's certainly okay. The symbol this week is the butter is no good. He's panicking. I don't know how you describe the face there, but it's not a happy face, is it? I've had the happy butter on there before. You know, the butter's spreading well, but it's a little bit lumpy at the moment. Yeah, I can understand you going either way, I think, with butters. Gresham, again, had a few CBAs over the weekend. Not a heap, though. I think he's absolutely prime to be traded out of your side. I don't see him as a keeper, similar to someone like a Cogs. And his break-even's even worse than Cogs, so 110 compared to that 3-rounder of 72. So I, pretty much suggest, and it may be easy for me as an non-owner to say this, but I highly suggest that you do look to trade him out this week, either upgrades or downgrades, completely up to you. Rosie, looking much better than Butters at the moment. They are playing him through the midfield. As I just mentioned before, 16 out of 25 CBAs compared to Boak and Butters, 11 out of 25. So becoming one of the preferred options in there without a doubt. 468,000, 3-rounder of 105 is great, but that break even is in the red. So look, if you've got faith in him, feel free to bring him in as one of those pod selections, but you have missed the boat on the value. You really did need to bring him in a couple of weeks ago, I think, if you were really keen on him. Adam Galore, just not a pick that appeals to me. 483,800. I can't really remember much from this game, apart from he had a really poor set shot on goal. So 3-round average of 88, break even of 123. I could name probably 4 doggies in the forward line that I'd rather have over Galore, I think, at the moment. So I'd just stay completely away from him. There's no need to bring him into your side, I don't think. Now, Jordan De Goey, just been really disappointing, hasn't it? That game with a heap of clangers. Then he's got the gastro. Just really unfortunate. But look, I think that the role's there. 24 out of 30 CBAs, I think it was. It's just off the top of my head. On the weekend, I think it was that high. I'm pretty sure it was that high. But look, if you look at his 3-round average, yeah, it's only a 70. Nothing great. But we've got to look at potential with this pick. I think he does have the potential to actually be a top 8 forward. Now, top 6, is that out of the question? I don't think so, if you can go on a bit of a mad tear. But with that break even of 125, we can certainly wait on him. And who knows, he could get very close to 400k. And after the buys, could be an absolute bargain to finish that forward line. And Zachy Bailey, very poor score over the weekend, and that's why I didn't even include him in the stock market last week. The only reason why I have included him this week is because someone did comment last week, I forget who it was, but they did mention, did you forget about Zach Bailey? And my response was no, didn't forget about him. I just don't think that he's relevant because of his inconsistencies in scoring. So all of a sudden, after going up in price, he sees himself with a break-even of 141 and a 3-round average of 90. So don't get me wrong, he could come out and get that break-even of 141, or else he could come out and give you a score in the 50s and really go down in price, and certainly more than 20k. So, yeah, look, if you own him, if you're one of the very, very few coaches, cool, you probably keep onto him, I suppose, up to you. There's probably not much discussion needed with Bailey, but certainly not a trade-in. He is a roller coaster pick. And we'll finish off with the forwards under 250k. Thanks very much for sticking with me. But look, unfortunately, there is not a lot to discuss here. The first 3 blokes I've got as slow burns. You got Baldwin there with negative break-even of 12. Curtis with negative break-even of 3. Unfortunately, his lowest score of the year, just pumped out something in the 30s. And Baldwin, well, he's delivered a few pretty poor scores, haven't he? That 3-round average has actually now gone up to 43. It was looking really, really bad before last week. Durden has now sort of regenerated himself a little bit now. Break even of 6 after a nice game. So you probably hold for now, but he has been a really, really slow burn to date. We've got Evans and Callow there that are both on the bubble, but there are many other better options than these two. We've already discussed a couple in Hamilton and Rioli that are also available as forwards. Obviously, we discussed them in the midfield, but they do have that DPP status. McGuinness as well, I think he's on the chopping block. Look, that break-even's only 19, but at the same time, if you need to downgrade someone in your midfield, I think he's a prime candidate, almost at 300k, which is really nice. McDonald, I think that we hold on to him. He's going to be a little bit of a slow burn, but Look, does he get rested this week, given the fact that he was originally meant to get rested, then came in to the team's late change? I'm really not too sure. But given the fact he's got DPP status, I think he could even be a handy loophole option for us. I'm in the hold camp for now, but if you're absolutely desperate to bring someone like Rioli in and you've got no one else, then I suppose you can do it. That's fine. And Malcolm Roses, this was an absolute train wreck game from him. Was on minus at quarter time. Pretty sure he was on minus even close to half time. Managed to scrape a score in the teens. So look, we knew that those 70s weren't sustainable. He's a small forward that plays for Gold Coast, but I certainly didn't expect a score under 20. So all of a sudden that break even, I apologise, it is in green. That should actually be in the red, which certainly isn't a good thing for him. That's really low score is going to be in his system for the next couple of price rises or price decreases. It really does depend on how he goes this week, but I do have the chopping block symbol on him. Look, it's not ideal because we did purchase him for 130, hasn't even made a 70k yet, but if you do need to bring in someone like a Hamilton or a Rioli, or using some DPP somehow, bring in a Carroll, then I certainly think that it's okay to do with Roses this week. So that's it for this week, guys. Hope you enjoyed. It was a pretty long one, but as you know, there were a number of relevant players to discuss. So all the best of luck with your trade ins and your trade outs this week, and I'll see you soon for the round review Q&A. Take care, guys, and have a great weekend. Cheers, bye.